So on this gorgeous day, this cloudy day, I'm thinking about where I live and the use of water. Because the rainy season has just started, and it started late, and it doesn't last forever. It's really 3 months out of the year there's rain. So we have to capture all of the water we need for the rest of the year in 3 months. Now in this case, I'm not going to talk about water, because I've talked a lot about that. But I want to talk about shade, because it's so comfortable to walk around outside of the direct sun. And almost all of the year here, the direct sun is really pretty harsh. It's because the elevation is high. And it's also really ends up being too hot in the spring. The direct sun doesn't bother you as much in the winter, because the days are shorter and it's cold more of the day. It never really gets that hot. But it's still, the direct sun is pretty harsh. And so I want to talk about shade and ways to get it. The number one way is to get deep shade with trees. And I've seen nearby some trees that look kind of like bay laurel. I don't know if they are. I haven't identified those trees. I have a list of trees down there, but I gotta look and see if that's on the list. But those provide absolute deep, thick shade, right? The other way we can get shade is by chopping trees off at above head height, and then getting the branches to spread out more densely and sculpt a denser shade. Because like a large tree provides shade, but that shade moves around during the day. And certainly like the black oaks, they're great for shade, but they don't have reliable shade in one spot. And so a bunch of shorter oaks might have some advantages over one huge oak, and they would use the same root space. I mean, I'm not against the big oaks either. We can have those, and we can also have ash trees. And I'm planting any kind of tree here that'll grow, especially since I think this year I think I'm watching trees die, like at an extreme rate. Like this oak right here, it might live. I think it will live. If I was going to bet on it, I'd say it would live. But I know that there's a bunch of trees that are going to die this year. I'm watching the worst year happen that's ever happened here. Maybe for, thousands of years, for all I know. I mean, it's been hot all over the world lately, and it's just really, really harsh. So, and then the other thing I've thought about is digging in. In this climate, it doesn't seem as important to dig in, but I need to evaluate the cost of, for example, how much does it cost, and you can figure this out where you're at. What does it cost to make a roof, a concrete roof of a given size? And of course you're going to want to put a floor in. I have places I've made roofs and I had a dirt floor, and the dirt floor becomes very dusty and bad. So we're going to want a concrete floor on it, and we're going to want concrete posts that never rot. So even though I have all this wood, building with wood right now in this transitional period may not be the best idea. But it may be better to use the fossil fuels we have left, to use what's left of civilization, to invest in infrastructure that will last a very, very long time. And it could be that on top of that infrastructure, we also build with wood, and we could even build that infrastructure to handle that. Now, I know many people are very against concrete, but I would, want you to think a little differently and be accepting of a, high energy embodied material such as concrete, because it fucking works. And I want to build a base for civilization. This is a really weird way to think about it. A base that we can then keep growing upon. And so we might be building wooden structures on top of concrete structures, which actually some people around here do, because the wood will rot less if it's up on top of concrete. And the other problem with concrete that gets brought up a fair amount is that the way we do concrete doesn't last forever. And somebody's going to bring up Roman concrete and how they did it better. And they have recently discovered how that was done. so it was done better, and we can look that up and find out if that will work for us. But one of the flaws in concrete apparently is actually the rebar, and I have a couple solutions for that. One of them is basalt rebar. You can look up basalt rebar. It's made of basalt, and that might be a solution for us, that we could just use that as standard, especially if we can buy a ton of it, get a good price, and just make it the standard of how we build. The other thought I have with that is, why can't we just make it thicker? Like overbuild, too thick. Like if we're going to build a concrete roof, right? Because we want to get out of the environment, we want to get out of the sun, out of the rain, out of a storm. We want to make a warm location. It makes a lot of sense then to go ahead and build another layer, right? Because we've already used the footprint. We've already made our mark upon the ground, and we're using up earth space. So why wouldn't we make a taller building? I think we should. I think buildings should be like 3 to 4 stories tall, and you can check the book A Pattern Language on this. A Pattern Language is the book. It's a famous Bible of architecture, and I love it. It's great. In fact, I would love to make commentary on different parts of it because it's so brilliant. And then I would like to expand on it by adding further thoughts, because any section in it almost inspires me to be thinking of how does that fit in with other things? How does one pattern language fit in with all the rest of them? You know, I mean, I think of like alcoves are in it, you know, just still design elements, and all of those fit together. Anyway, so I don't understand why we need rebar if we just made something thicker, right? Like, how thick do the columns have to be for let's call it a 4-story building dug into slope, right? And then we're controlling all the water around it, and we do that in a way that it never fucking falls apart. So we never rely on something like polycarbonate, for example, because almost all these buildings should have a polycarbonate top on them to provide a semi-shaded spot to sit. Because being in the semi-sun here is so nice. But we know that the polycarbonate is going to be destroyed by the amount of solar radiation here. You know, maybe it will last 30 years. Maybe it will last 20. I mean, it's really harsh sun here at this elevation. But in any case, you know, it'll probably blow off or whatever. It's a plastic crap, you know. So we want to build things that really last a long time, and that even as parts of that building that we create fail, like the polycarbonate, that we can then reconstruct in a better way, you know? Rather than a pipe for channeling water, you know, I want to make a whole waterway, a water channel built into buildings that's big and can handle the maximum water a storm can provide. I want full rain capture, and gutters are not good enough for that, you know? And then, you know, I have some other ideas about like capturing water off of a roof that people actually use. And then what rules do we make on walking up onto there and keeping it really clean? You know, I want really clean roofs, so we do as clean a capture as possible. And also ways that we can capture it, have it go into an overfill thing that we can clean out really easily. Like a big one you can get into. Like even now I have cisterns that, you know, you'd have to have a very small person to get into them to clean it out. And that's fine, we can arrange that. But like, I don't have a clean water system on my property. That sucks. So, I mean, it's really a redesign of how we do architecture entirely. And of course, I'm looking at steel beams. You know, I was in the city the other day for the first time in years, and I saw these buildings being put up with these really thick steel girder beams. And I really like that idea. And I don't know if that has a place in what I'm envisioning or not, or what the advantages are. I think there's big advantages to that, actually. A steel lattice work. I mean, how would that do in earthquakes, you know? And then could we, even in trees, because I want to integrate trees into actually building buildings, living trees. And this gets into more of a temporary building, although it may be measured in centuries. But, you know, what if we grow an oak building? And I mean, I've done experiments with this. I've started doing it. But what if you know, there's the book How to Grow a Chair by cool guy, what's his name? He has another book too. You should buy both of them. I've never seen the second one. I need to get that book. But, you know, tree sculpting is a whole topic. And doing it at the building level, like intentionally creating your instead of concrete beams, your posts are made of oak, like this big oak tree right here. And then we could even put steel beams across, you know, that grow, the oak grows around it. And then we have levels of things within this group of trees. And we could put boards in there, you know, and roofing, and you know, we know that tree's going to die someday, but the steel beam we could reuse, and, you know, use steel beams big enough that they're as big as, you know, a group of people can manage to move. I mean, I even see down at the railroad tracks, I see pieces of railroad track that, you know, I've got my eye on them, and I'm like, geez, I'd love to have that. It's old railroad track, right? It's been thrown away. Now it's not mine, it's the federal government, so I'm inclined not to bother with it. In fact, I won't. But I would be very interested in what is the cost of a steel beam. I need to investigate that. And how does that compare with using concrete? Because it seems like it would just last forever, you know? And if we integrate it in with something like growing trees, that just sounds like the craziest treehouse idea that you can imagine. I mean, because I don't like tree houses because they seem unsafe in many cases. But if a whole oak was like grown around a steel beam, a network of them, then you have a structure up above, away from animals, you know, and you could make amazing things. And you know, roofing's an issue. I mean, it's complicated. But the point is that we have all these odd materials we can use in different ways than we normally think about them. And, you know, I even just want to put old branches up into trees or sculpt trees in ways. I'm already doing this now with oaks. I mean, I'm sculpting trees in ways that make them perfect for making bird nests. And so I'm increasing bird habitat. Because, like, pine trees, I have some ravens that live in a pine tree, and they're really cool. But I don't understand how birds can handle, like, the rains. And so the more I can make cavities, for example, for owls, they're cavity nesters, right? The more that I can make space up above in trees for different types of birds that don't make their own nests or that need better nesting habitat, like even this oak over here, it's pretty unimpressive for providing habitat. So we could sculpt trees for providing habitat for animals and for people. And of course, everybody likes tree houses. They seem romantic, you know. You think of like Swiss Family Robinson or something. And, you know, I mean, I hesitate to build too many things that are not going to last forever. But for now, we could do things like, you know, use steel cables or whatever, like metal cables, and make, you know, bridges over into trees on a slope, so that you actually walk on this bridge from the upper part of the slope out to your tree house. And that does get you away from, you know, bugs and snakes and animals and stuff. And at minimum, it would be really cool to do that. So that's a rambly bunch of crap. How did I get there? From concrete roofs. Yeah, I definitely need to just build shade and grow shade. Now, the growing of shade, I haven't done as well at, but I'm working on it. And this year has been especially harsh because of the white oaks, which in the hottest part of the year, they lose all their leaves and they don't provide any shade at all, which is one of the reasons I've discriminated against white oaks. And this year, I'm not sure what's going to happen. I mean, in next year, like what if next year is the same as this year and there's not enough rain? I mean, what if I'm watching the entire fucking forest die? And I don't know that's the case. It sounds alarmist. But, I mean, I'm looking at trees that should have leaves and don't. And if a tree does, this is a black oak right here, and it's lost its leaves almost. Not quite. It lost most of them. That is not normal for here. And so, and I've seen some that have definitely died, I think. The pines have definitely died. I mean, you can tell when a pine's dead. And it's dead. There's many that are died. And that's really shocking for here. And so I want to get other conifers to replace them with, and other trees in general. I want to expand the genetic base of what trees I have planted. Because, and this is not true for just my place, but for the entire area, you know. I think we could go, you know, tree planting crazy, because we're going to want fuel, we're going to want building materials, we're going to want food. And so setting up as part of the culture here that, you know, everyone is germinating, it doesn't have to be everyone, but everybody's germinating trees and stuff, could actually save this area. And that could be expanded to other places where, you know, centuries of human habitation have destroyed the environment, you know. And so we have this last ditch option to have like living seed banks all over the place, and pockets of life that then will expand. Frida, what the fuck is that dog doing? She likes running way over there. She has no fear. She's kind of dumb. I think it's because she's never really had her ass kicked. You know, the problem is that if she ever does get her ass kicked, she's going to be dead. I mean, she doesn't got a lot of ass to kick. I mean, she could just be a snack for any animal, or, you know, like that rattlesnake the other day. If that had bit her, she would die. And there would be nothing I can do about it. I do need injections of disinflammatories, but I can guarantee you, based on my past experience, that would not be good enough for her. For bigger dogs, they can live, but they're really unhappy for quite a while. Hey, don't bark at horses. Okote, let's be a nice dog. Yeah. Come here. Fucking dogs. I love dogs, but they're so dumb sometimes. Well, they're not dumb. They just have different values, but barking at horses is not a good thing to do. So, anyway, I'm getting into town here. I gotta go. I don't even know. There was no theme on that. No shade. Oh yeah, because I'm enjoying this lovely morning with all these clouds. But this is not most of the year. And so, building and growing massive amounts of shade has to be a top priority. And building it has the advantage over growing it. Even if I don't finish the buildings, right? I should make like as much structure as I can to have square footage of places out of the rain. The rain is even worse than the sun, because I want to invite people with tents out, you know? So we'll see.